This is long overdue, so fuck it. Story time about how I exposed a racist bar owner in my college town and why he had to get that N-word Henny out of here. Let's talk about it. So let's set the scene. It's 2020, the Black Lives Matter movement is at its peak, and I'm a DJ at the most diverse bar in Clarion, Pennsylvania. It's a small college town, probably about 7,000 people in total. 5,000 of them are college students, and the rest are just, people in country. Just think rural PA. That's where we're at. If you know anything about rural Pennsylvania, they are not the most accepting people. So going into this, I should have known it was a bad idea. But Ron and John Pacsai made it seem like Infusion was going to be a great diverse place where everybody was going to be accepted. And that was the farthest thing from the truth. But before I go any farther, let me show you what these people look like so you know what you're working with. I didn't want to put their actual pictures up, but for comparison's sake, this is what John looks like. He's a big fat guy that smells musty, and his bars ran like a swamp. So I would just picture Shrek. And this would be Ron. Just think trailer trash park grumpy old guy, and you pretty much get him. Well, like I said, I'm working at Infusion during the peak of the Black Lives Matter movement, and I'm part black, so I'm sharing all of the stuff online about the protests and everything that's going on and how the Black Lives Matter movement is trying to make a change. And every single post I share, the owner of the bar, John, comments on my post and calls it riots and how it's bad and how they're looting and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, well, sir, I'm coming to you and we're going to talk about this. And up to this point, me and John had a decent relationship. He taught me how to DJ. He looked out for me when I was in a very bad spot. He was a good person to me personally at this point in time. So I was like, I'm going to go have a conversation with him and maybe I can get through to him and just show how this is wrong. Like the things that he's saying is wrong. Well, I go there, and 45 minutes into the conversation, we're having a really, really good conversation. We're not necessarily agreeing, but we're trying to see each other's points of view. So we're going back and forth about the Black Lives Matter movement, and this is where Ron comes into the conversation, and it just gets really, really, really uncomfortable. So me and John are having a conversation in the hallway, and Ron walks in. Ron stands there for a minute, listens to what we're talking about, chimes in about how the riots and how the Black Lives Matter movement is riots, da-da-da-da-da, and at the end of him explaining to me why he thinks that they're riots or whatever, he looks at me and says, to be honest with you, Henny, I hate most black people. What? What? Excuse me, sir, what? So he follows that up by saying the only color he cares about is green and leaves the bar. Me and John have another 5 to 10 minute conversation. I'm really uncomfortable because what? And I need to get out of here. Fast forward a couple weeks, I expose them on Facebook for being racist, have a protest in Clarion, and I get death threats, da-da-da-da-da. It's a whole bunch of backlash. Their business slows down for a while, eventually goes back to normal. I move out of the town. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, what does that have to do with the original screenshot? Well, it's 5 years later, and he's back at it, ladies and gentlemen. He's back at it. So now John and Ron both own Infusion and run their direct competitor, the Loomis, which is the bar around the corner from their establishment. They own both bars now, or run both bars now. So last night, one of the bartenders told 2 occupants that they could play any music they want on the jukebox because it was free jukebox nights. Well, Ron interjected in the conversation with the 2 girls and the bartender and said, don't play any of that black people music on my jukebox. What? The 2 girls tried to ignore him, and he still repeatedly said, repeatedly said, don't play black people music on my jukebox. She said, excuse me, sir, excuse me. And this motherfucker had the nerve to say, you heard me. I don't want to hear that black ass music in my bar. She then proceeds to tell him that her sons are black and that she has black kids. And, that it's just not cool. It's not cool to do that. She's in a relationship with a black guy. He kicks her out of the bar. So then the bartender intervenes and is like, hey, Ron, that's not cool. You shouldn't do stuff like that. And he says, I don't give a fuck what you say. You don't get paid to talk or think. And then she's like, well, my son is black, Ron, and that's not cool. And he said, fuck your kid. I'll fire you for that. What? And this is where he says, that's why I got that N-word Henny out of here too. I didn't have a TikTok platform when this first happened, but I do now, and I will not let this slide. Not one fucking bit. So that being said, share the post, repost this, go to Cora Z Frost's Facebook post, share her post, read her point of the view, go to the comments section, see all the racist stuff that they've done over the years, see how they've sexually harassed people, see how they're predators, see how weird and shady they are. This is not okay. Click the link in my bio, share her post. We're going to put an end to this today. I just had to get my story out there, and I had to share their story. So repost this, and Let's make a difference.